Communique Additional, that's the president of the African Development Bank, speaking currently. Let's listen in.
To us, how you embrace everything, how you, through the resources of the central bank and also of the government of Egypt, towards making this such a wonderful meeting. And yesterday night was just incredible. We are leaving this place with incredible memories of your beautiful country. Well, thank you for your sterling leadership. Their governors, alternate governors, the commissioner from the African Union Commission, honorable ministers, and of course I recognize my dear sister, Minister Mashat, that is here, the Minister of International from the government of the Arab Republic of Egypt, all honorable ministers, heads of regional economic communities, heads of international, multilateral, bilateral, and regional financial institutions, delegates and shareholders, executive directors and senior management and staff of the African Development Bank Group. Of course, my beautiful and always extremely supportive wife, Grace. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is amazing that a week ago, 1 week went back so fast for the 2023 annual meetings. We all arrived here, we came together to this beautiful city of Sharm el-Sheikh, the city of peace, to engage in discussions on climate change, to discuss how we will mobilize climate finance and support green growth with the private sector. You came because you believe in Africa. You came because you support Africa. You came because you are a partner of Africa. Our leaders were here in large numbers. President El-Sisi was here as the chief host of the annual meetings. The President's presence and message showed his very strong commitment to the cause of climate finance for Africa, of course following up on the incredibly successful COP27 meetings held right here in this same place. The chairman of the African Union Commission was here. The president of Comoros and the chairman of the African Union was here. The president of Zimbabwe was here. The vice president of Tanzania, the prime minister of Somalia, the prime minister of Rwanda, the prime minister of the Central African Republic, who is actually still with us today, the prime minister of Burundi, all were here. And of course, they were joined by the prime minister of the Arab Republic of Egypt. Their collective presence shows the strong support the African Development Bank has in its drive to accelerate Africa's development. I had so many things in these meetings. I took a lot of copious notes, as I always do, because the points you raise, the issues you raise, and the guidance that you give are also crucially important for us to note them, remember them, reflect on them, and adjust based on them. I heard that we should leverage more the private sector for climate finance as a bank. I heard that we should accelerate investments in renewable energy. I heard that we should have a just and fair energy transition and ensure that we have energy access, affordability, and security for Africa. That Africa needs to use its natural gas for solving its energy challenge, including gas to power, liquefied natural gas for cooking to save the lives of millions of women who die every single year using dirty fuels, charcoal, and firewood, and there are children that die with them for just trying to make what we take for granted, making a decent meal for their families. That we should accelerate the support to countries on the development of their nationally determined contributions and the long-term strategies to support green transitions and green growth for our economies. It is, I am absolutely convinced, in the interest of Africa to green its own economies. We heard about the reform of the global financial architecture and how critical this is, and that the reforms should strengthen, not diminish, the roles of the multilateral development banks that are in the regions like ourselves, because it's not just the global public goods that matter. Global public goods land in regions or in regions, in countries, in communities, and the multilateral development banks, the regional multilateral development banks know their regions, are present in their regions, have strategies for their regions, are trusted by their regions, and deploy policy instruments in dialogue with their regions better than anybody else can do because they are trusted in those regions. We heard about very strong support for the special drawing rights SDRs to be rechanneled to Africa through African Development Bank, and that lead SDR donors should help to make this happen now, so that the financial proposal of the bank working collaboratively with the Inter-American Development Bank have succeeded in putting forward that now meets the reserve asset quality called for by the IMF for the SDR as a reserve asset. We had about strong appreciation for the African Development Bank's leading globally on innovative approaches for mobilizing financing, including a celebrated room to run with synthetic securitization, among others, with great support from our shareholders. At these annual meetings, we celebrated the first two projects that were enabled under our room to run transaction that was funded by the UK government that allowed us to free up $2 billion. We celebrated those for projects on green growth and climate resilient technologies for Senegal and for Egypt, thanks to the support of the UK government to the Room to Run program. So let's do more, and let's keep on running. We heard that we should continue to expand support for food security, that we should tackle debt issues, and that there should be urgent measures for debt resolution and to make the G20 common framework on debt work. And that we should continue to focus on reducing fragility and the links between conflict, fragility, and development, including the banks that we plan to do on security indexed investment bonds. That we should continue to focus on women and the youths, especially for skills and entrepreneurship. And there was very strong support for the youth entrepreneurship investment banks. That we should continue to be selective and focus on areas of comparative advantage of the bank, as well as to improve the quality of our operations. That, as I've always said, big issues requires us putting our hands around the baobab tree in Africa. That's how it works. And Africa's challenges are like baobab trees. We have to all put our hands around it. And that calls for partnerships, a lot more partnerships. Partnerships in developing, executing, implementing, and resourcing programs. Partnerships in mobilizing resources. Their governors, I tremendously enjoyed our governors' dialogue. It went on for more than 3 hours. And I remember as that was going on and the time was ticking off, Simon Mizrahi, my vice president, who did a fantastic job of moderating that session, walked up to me and said, Mr. President, the time is ticking. I know you have several other things to do, and I wonder whether we'll be able to take everybody. I told him, Simon, the most important people for me at our annual meetings are my governors. Every other thing, we build it around them. I want to hear them. I want to get their views. I want to get their perspectives. If it's mean we go on for 4 hours, let it be. We continue to do that. I took so much notes in pads that are with me, and I've told, by the way, please, my staff do such an incredible job, but I don't know how to even stay because they're not sleeping, because I have to sleep myself. But they keep these notes for me so that at least I make sure that I refer to these notes. We heard from our governors on several areas that we need a much larger African Development Bank as we look to the future of the biggest challenges facing Africa as it copes with many of this deluge of global challenges. And that the bank is more crucial and well trusted than any other financial institution because the bank knows Africa, and I think, as the governor from Saudi Arabia said, has a heart for Africa. Because Alexia reminded us, Africa is our mandate, and we trust you when it comes to Africa. We heard that Africa will shape the future of the world's economy, as my sister Alexia said. The African Development Bank will be the key to unleashing Africa's potential. And we saw that today as you, our governors, in your thought meeting, spoke and discussed the communique for the bank, for your meetings, where you expressed strong support as our Board of Governors for the African Development Fund to leverage its equity and mobilize more resources to the capital markets. Now, this was a long journey, long discussions, deliberations, questions, issues raised as they should be raised. But we've come to a point where we all collectively agree we need more resources for the low-income countries and that we should leverage the equity that the bank has. And that our governors said that we should pursue this. And I want to say that when the agreements are fully reached and implemented, this could unlock several billions and billions of dollars for the low-income countries and fragile countries in Africa. That could potentially be about $4 billion per replenishment cycle. That could even grow to $27 billion, maybe even more, depending on when we launch it and how much equity we build in it over time. But what's important is that we came here together. I want to thank you very much. We will continue to put in place, as per your statements in the communique, the enablers necessary to potentially leverage the equity of the fund in the international capital markets. Dear governors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we can therefore leave Sharm el-Sheikh with excitement. The whole week has been simply phenomenal. I'd like to thank you, our governors, and your delegations that came with you for your excellent participation. I'd like to thank all the participants from around the world who attended and participated so actively in all the sessions as you huddled in the hallways, over lunch, over dinner, over all the other events. The only thing left now, as you know, I love dancing, is to dance and hope somehow we can have that in tonight. New friends were made that will help advance Africa's development. I'd like to thank you once again, the governor of Egypt, Governor Abdullah, and the entire government for an incredible job. When I came here and I came to see His Excellency President El-Sisi, in the meeting as we were walking out, he told me, you will really enjoy your annual meetings here because we will spare no expense to make it one of the very best that you've ever had. And that's exactly what has been done. I would like the staff of the Central Bank of Egypt to please rise, because they have worked wow, these guys are incredible guys, you know. Thank you very much. And please, other agencies from the Ministry of International Cooperation, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, everybody worked so hard. It was an all-government affair. And of course, the governorate of the South Sinai, they did all this work and facilities for us. Thank you to Governor Fuda, Major General Fuda, for all of that. The spouses were not left. In fact, my wife told me that they had so much fun that some of the men actually that to be spouses. So they went into their own visits, and many of them were snorkeling. That's very fun, and thank you very much to for all of that. That's the lunches and the dinners were great, and we enjoyed the Africa Day with a beautiful cultural evening yesterday. Yep. And it was so wonderful to dwell together in unity, joining hands and hearts across the world for Africa. I'd like my governors to please stand. The governors of the bank, please. Thank you very much, governors, for being here. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your excellent support. Without any doubt, this is one of our very best annual meetings ever. Yep. And we certainly look forward to coming back. Kudos to all the staff of the bank. I have great staff working for me. My staff, please stand, from Senior Vice President, Vice President, DGs, directors, everybody. Secretary General, General Counsel, excellent job that you did. Thank you very much. We got some guys here called Javier and his team that put together all the structures. The guy is over there. Yeah, thanks, Javier. And there are some folks that you actually don't see here, but they are in the back room making interpretation work so that we can hear each other and therefore we can understand each other. And we couldn't come here without drivers, without security staff, all those that work so late at night to make sure that we can get from place to place. The technicians, the electricians, everything seems to work, but it's not like magic. These guys work to make sure it works. Thank you, everybody. And so let us leave Sharm el-Sheikh with a greater sense of commitments, a greater commitment to working together, a greater commitment to supporting your bank, a greater commitment to supporting Africa, a greater commitment to building a more resilient and prosperous Africa, a greater commitment to stay with Africa. For Africa will shine. We look forward to seeing you all at the annual meetings of the bank in Nairobi. It's therefore a great pleasure to congratulate our new chairperson of the Board of Directors of Governors, Professor Njuguna, the Minister of Finance of Kenya. Congratulations as well to the new members of the Bureau of Governors of the bank. Thank you all very much. Merci beaucoup, shukran, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that very, very composite and comprehensive remarks. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite the chairperson of the Board of Governors of the Bank Group, His Excellency Hassan Abdallah, to formally hand over the chairmanship of the Board of Governors to Professor Ndungu, the new chairperson of the Board of Governors. Thank you very much. Now, Kenya, and all eyes are on Kenya. Well, to keep your eyes on Kenya, let's have a video of the Kenya. Is the video.
Welcome to Kenya, the great home of corner of the eastern side of the African continent. Kenya is the economic powerhouse and the hub of East and Central Africa, and steadily realizing its full potential as a global player on the world stage. Strategically located as a gateway to Africa, with strong growth prospects supported by an emerging urban middle class and an increasing appetite for high-level goods and services, Kenya boasts of a large pool of young, talented, highly educated, skilled and sought-after workforce in Africa. As an influential member of various trade blocs including East African Community EAC, COMESA and Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Kenya as a channel in providing seamless access to almost 560 million people across the region and potentially millions more through further integration into bigger economic communities across the continent and the world. It is the region's logistical hub, playing a big role as a transshipment hub for goods moving to landlocked countries in East and Central Africa through the expanded Mombasa and Lamu port. Kenya is also renowned for its coffee, flowers, fruits, vegetables, nuts and many more quality products, and continue to leave millions of international consumers in awe of the treasures of her fertile soil. Within Kenya's highly diversified economy lies countless opportunities for locals and international investment. There are brand new construction projects popping up all over the country, including city highways like Nairobi Expressway, expansion of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and the Standard Gauge Railway, among others. This exponential infrastructure development, coupled with political and economic stability locally and regionally, highlight enormous growth potential for several sectors including mining, agriculture, manufacturing, energy and the blue economy. Kenya has come a long way in its journey to become Africa's Silicon Savannah, from being just another outpost for multiple multinational companies to spawning revolutionary apps, softwares, and digital innovations that are the envy of even the most advanced economies in the world. And when the local and foreigners are not busy bolstering Kenya's economy, they're enjoying her bountiful natural beauty and vibrant city life. World-famous sites and attractions are dotted all over the country, on pristine beaches, wild plains, beautiful lakes, and towering mountain peaks. Not only is Kenya the home of some of the world's most beautiful sights and wildlife, it has also given rise to a number of prominent global figures who have shot to global stardom in international football, athletics, entertainment, and even world politics. So, as Africa and the world head into an uncertain yet promising future, Kenya continues to rise and sets the pace as a pioneer across the board with the big, bold, and brave steps. This is Kenya.
Kenya is open for business. And beyond what we are doing with governments, we have made a deliberate decision in using in technology, in cybersecurity, better and in a way that is collaborative. We have a program that we have laid out. I know many of you have worked with Kenya before. We now have a program as a new administration, and we are looking forward to partnership with those of you who have worked with us in Kenya before and those of you who want to work with us in Kenya now. We are consolidating the market around the EAC with about 300 million people, around the tripartite free trade area and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area with a population of 1.2 billion people and a GDP of $3.5 trillion. As you think about investing in Kenya, you should have the horizon of beyond Kenya.
Thank governors as you proceed to Kenya this time. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to invite Professor Njuguna Ndungu, the Cabinet Secretary for Finance and the new chairperson of to deliver his acceptance speech.
Thank you very much indeed, Your Excellency, the Honorable Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hassan Abdallah, the outgoing Chairman of the Board of Governors of the African Development Bank Group, and the Governor of Egypt, the esteemed governors of the African Development Bank Group, His Excellency Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the President of the African Development Bank Group, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I would like to extend my gratitude and congratulate the Arab Republic of Egypt for hosting the African Development Bank's 2023 annual meetings in this beautiful and unique resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh. I do also thank the Egyptian people for their great hospitality and warm reception over the past few days. In fact, we feel overfed by the Egyptian hospitality. I also humbly accept the role of the chairperson of the boards of governors of the African Development Bank and the African Development Fund, and it allows me actually to extend my appreciation to Honorable Hassan Abdallah, Governor of Egypt, for his efforts as chairperson of the boards of governors for the last 1 year. He has indeed diligently and devotedly guided the business of our bank, and I'm delighted to have a strong foundation to build on coming from him noble responsibility. On behalf of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the government of Kenya is honored and delighted to host the 2024 African Development Bank annual meetings. And indeed, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, you will be coming to Kenya, and Kenya will show is very committed to this task. And we are also very committed to ensure economic excellence and sustainability despite the global shocks that have been quite persistent and created some permanent effects and permanent structural change. But we showed our own. And following the peaceful and transparent elections that were held in August 2022, that were won by His Excellency President William Ruto, his government has since then spared no efforts in pursuit of its ambitious development strategy that seeks to achieve shared prosperity through the Kenya Kwanza bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We call it BETTER. This is an agenda for inclusive and sustainable development that we wish to pursue. As demonstrated in the video that you have just seen and watched a few minutes ago, more focus has shifted towards diversification of the productive structure of some of the important sectors of the economy, like the agricultural sector, manufacturing and industry, financial services, communication, and even information technology sectors. Those are the sectors that will have a larger impact in the economy. All these endeavors have contributed to strengthening the resilience of the Kenyan economy as we navigate what we have described as a perfect storm that has come from the devastating consequences of various negative but persistent shocks, and also permeated by COVID-19 pandemic, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the geopolitical tensions that are being witnessed in the region, food security and climate change, and the effects of other emerging global negative shocks. These have formed what we call the perfect storm in Kenya. These have compounded the dire consequences and the situation in African countries as we deal with enormous challenges of climate change as well as eradicating poverty. And of course, these have reversed the efforts of the last 20 years of fighting poverty, food insecurity, and inequality. The need for quality infrastructure to attract private investment in our countries is putting pressure on financing requirements in an already tight budget. Hence, the need to be innovative and provide diverse ways of mobilizing resources to finance infrastructure development and enhance the profitability of private investment. Here, the physical infrastructure should stretch to other areas like water management to safeguard food security and climate change. And that is something that we are trying to push on so that we can mitigate the effects of climate change and accelerate adaptation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on the regional level, the African continent is severely affected by the slowdown of global trade in addition to higher energy, food and commodity prices that is adding to the risks of already stressed macroeconomic situation. Indeed, this has really strained the public debt management. And during the forthcoming period, more corrective efforts will be required to create an enabling environment that supports African integration and resilience. The role of development institutions is very crucial in pooling and mobilizing required resources for mitigating the adverse effects of geopolitical tension, the negative shocks, food security, and climate change. I do believe that the African Development Bank has a wide range of instruments that we can capitalize on to achieve the strategic African integration that we require. The bank's initiatives, programs, policies, strategies, and operations are expected further to mobilize affordable development financing that is key for resilience in the upcoming period. The African Development Bank also enables our economies to pursue efforts as well as pave the road to achieve the 2063 agenda. As a result, I would like to thank Dr. Adesina, the President of the African Development Bank Group, and his team for their continuous effort to support the development of our continent. These efforts have placed the bank at the forefront of the global development community, and the bank's role has been pinned as a leading development partner through its endeavors across all African nations. You have listened to the debate currently going on relating to the multilateral development banks or development institutions. The cornerstone of the debate is that multilateral development banks should provide support to development that will be quick in resolving emergencies and flexible in terms of their approach and comprehensive in terms of their capability. I hereby reaffirm my support to his work and vision for the President's vision, of the President of the African Development Bank's vision, as he delivers the betterment of the African economies. I do believe African Development Bank has been a leading light in this area, and we do believe it is going to continue that way. It is for this reason I feel honored, both myself and Kenya and the totality of the Kenya government, that I wish to reaffirm that Kenya government's commitment to ensure the successful annual meetings in 2024, but also the activities towards that period of 2024. And I welcome you all to Kenya, and I wish that you'll come and witness where the long-distance runners come from, but more importantly, the enthusiasm within which we want to develop our economy. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Please put your hands once more. New Chairperson of the Board of Governors. I was made to understand, says he will be given some token gift to the old chairperson. We are already feeling reality before we go. May I use this opportunity to invite Mr. Hassan Abdallah, Bank of the Arab Republic of Egypt, an AfDB governor for Egypt, and now
Thank you, Secretary General. And if you allow me, my word, I would like us all to applaud the great effort he has done through the meetings. It's been non-stop working. Honorable governors, alternate governors, ministers, Mr. President of the African Development Bank Group, my brother, Dr. Adeshina, esteemed executive directors, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It has been an honor for Egypt to host the 2023 AfDB annual meetings in the city of Sharm el-Sheikh from the 22nd to the 26th of May, Sharm el-Sheikh, the city of peace. On a personal level, I've spent with you the last few days. It was utmost pleasure and privilege for me. And the most important thing I felt, other than all the deliberations we had, is that I have been able to make a lot of friends. So thank you all for your presence and for being here for us. I would like to convey my appreciation to the esteemed members of the boards of governors, Mr. Presidents, boards of executive directors, Secretary General, senior management and staff of the bank for their strong support and effort throughout my tenure as a chairperson. The joint collaboration in preparing, endorsing and deliberating all topics could be strongly felt and have made this year's meetings a resounding success. The National Organizing Committee and the AfDB annual meetings team have jointly done a great job. And I know that we've applauded them, but please, for my sake, one more big applaud for them. Thank you all of you. Distinguished guests, despite the increasingly challenging external environment, including geopolitical risks, climate change, insecurity, high inflationary trends, as well as increased costs of servicing debts, the bank group has continued to strongly respond to these countless challenges facing regional member countries. It has done this through counter-cyclical financing and knowledge products for strengthening macroeconomic and fiscal stability, debt sustainability, and structural transformation of the economies, while building resilience in fragile and transitional states. With a strong and prudent financial and risk management approach that ensured its continued AAA credit rating, one of the rare things to have these days in this world, by all the major global credit rating agencies, I am certain that the bank will continue its continental leadership role. AfDB will continue deepening its collaboration with the African Union member countries and multilateral development banks, international financial institutions, and other development partners to mobilize more public and private climate financing to tackle the urgent matters. The opening ceremony of this year's annual meetings witnessed the presence of His Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, emphasizing on the role of the AfDB in tailoring financing solutions that are appropriate to the needs of the African countries. His Excellency also highlighted the need for an action plan with a clear timetable, ways and means to deal with the various challenges faced by the continent striving to achieve the SDGs, in addition to calling on MDBs for action to reassess standards and conditions that qualify countries for concessional loans. During the activities of the past days, we did not only analyze the general situations and existing problems of mobilizing private sector financing for climate and green growth, but also introduce advanced experiences, exchanged thoughts on cutting-edge theories, and proposed many constructive ideas and suggestions for a greener, more efficient, more balanced Africa. I firmly believe that the closing of this year's annual meetings is not an end, but a new starting point. Let's build on what has been achieved and look ahead into the future. Now, it's a call for action. On behalf of Egypt, we would like to extend our congratulations to Kenya for being selected as the host country for the 2024 African Development Bank annual meetings scheduled to take place in Nairobi from 27th to 31st of May 2024. We are confident that Kenya, with its strategic location, vibrant economy, and dynamic society, would provide an outstanding setting for the 2024 annual meetings. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all had a pleasant stay and fruitful week in Sharm el-Sheikh, and I look forward to see you again in the 2024 AfDB annual meetings in Nairobi, the green city under the sun. Safe travels to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you of the boards of governors. Ladies and gentlemen, pleading your indulgence to put your hands together for his generosity, his poise, his dedication to ensuring that we had a wonderful time in Sharm el-Sheikh. We have come to that point where we reflect the week that we are about to end. We will therefore request the technical people to please play what we refer to the annual meetings.
More than 1,000 delegates are converging here in the City of Peace, Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, for the 2023 annual meetings of the African Development Bank Group.
إنه من دواعي سروري أن أرحب بكم في مدينة السلام شرم الشيخ التي تشرف باستضافة الاجتماعات السنوية لبنك التنمية الأفريقي 2023.
The future of Africa is green. Our infrastructure should be green and greener. Our economies must be climate-proofed and resilient. Let's unleash the power of the private sector for a greener Africa.
We do believe that there is a great potential for Africa to set an example for low-carbon, high-growth, sustainable development. Finance is going to be a critical success factor.
The annual meetings also allow a space for knowledge sharing, including the launch of its flagship annual report and African Economic Outlook.
Now, what we found from that negotiations, as in other climate negotiations, is that we need huge amounts of resources to be able to address climate change impacts in Africa and around the world. But despite the megawatts of promises, we don't have megawatts of action.
Thematic knowledge events provided a deeper delve into topics around this year's theme of mobilizing private sector for climate change and green growth in Africa.
The urgency and the complications of the climate emergency demand a rethinking both of the scale and of the manner in which we talk about the private sector and the mobilization of the private sector.
We do have the instruments that we can tap onto to basically partner with others that come into our countries.
You have to be very clear with the projects that you want to implement, the projects that are part of your commitment to your climate action and hence the global action, and that's where country ownership comes in.
Women are agents of change. And so when we're helping women and when we're focusing programming on women and girls, we're helping development outcomes across the board. I know that the president understands that, and that's why he's a good partner.
Good morning.
The program was also sprinkled with compelling side events, networking with development partners, and persons at the highest levels of African government, filled with fun events to socialize and new ways to fully immerse in the bank's project success stories. The annual meetings may be coming to a close for this year, but mark your calendars now for the annual meetings 2024 in Nairobi, Kenya, 27th through 31st May, 2024. We'll see you there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we will have a family photo of the new bureau on stage. Following the family photo, there will be a press conference to be held at Ferouz, open to all. The press conference will be attended by the outgoing chairperson of the board and the president of the bank group. Journalists, please go to Ferouz now in preparation for that.
You've been watching the closing ceremony of the Africa Development Bank Annual General Meeting 2023 taking place in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. It started on the 22nd of this month and concludes today. There was a formal handover of the chairmanship of the Board of Governors, and Kenya has ensured the attendees of its preparedness to play host during next year's AfDB annual meeting. Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, who's president of the Africa Development Bank Group, addressed the attendees, thanking them for the attendance at this year's meeting. And he also acknowledged everyone from the government of Egypt to the staff of the central bank, as well as other ministers for making it a success, including technical workers and even drivers. Now, preceding this, he made it quite clear that Nigeria and other economies of Africa projected to grow by 4.1% in 2023 and 4.3% in 2024. According to him, the economies of the continent have shown remarkable resilience in spite of the multiple and dynamic shocks that it's faced. There was emphasis on the need for focus in areas of comparative advantage, and Africa was likened to a baobab tree, which calls for partnerships in mobilizing resources and dialogue in order to make progress.